Hey everyone, hope you've had a great week. We are in the second to last week of our series entitled Reading Romans Backwards. And so this week we looked at Romans chapter 7 specifically, where Paul is talking about a conflict, this internal conflict that rages inside the heart and life of every believer. And so essentially the big ideas this week are that although Christians are given a new nature by Christ, the old nature, the flesh, is still a product of our fallen humanity, and it's a part of us in this life. And so there is, again, this battle, this conflict that's going on within all believers. On the one hand, believers love God, and they want to obey God and serve God and be faithful. But on the other hand, there's still the struggle with temptation and with sin because of the flesh. So Paul, ultimately what we see is that Paul is just honest about the struggle. So rather than trying to pretend, that it's not a problem, or manage or justify or excuse or even medicate the flesh, being honest about the struggle is often the first step to finding the freedom and the peace that we need from those things. And so Romans chapter 7, particularly the back part of the chapter, it really reveals that. And so, and finally, another point is just that, sanctification is not automatic. And so we've got to learn how to nourish our new nature, how to feed it, if you will, so that it matures and so that it grows. This is really what sanctification is all about. Main text was Romans 7, verses 7 to 25. And then our questions you can ask this week. Again, what was most interesting or encouraging to you from the sermon this week? Number 2, what was most challenging or raised some further questions for you from the sermon this week? Number 3, so why do you think the Apostle Paul constantly talked about, how he struggled with sin? So we see that there in Romans 7, 18 and 19. He talked about how he didn't feel worthy of his calling in 1 Corinthians chapter 15, verse 9. He considered himself the least of the saints in Ephesians chapter 3, verse 8, and the chief of sinners in 1 Timothy chapter 1, verse 15. And so what does or what should this communicate to us, and what can we learn from this, from the way that Paul described himself? And someone that most of us would agree, we would think is a pretty mature believer, still admitting that he struggles in those ways. So take some time and unpack that a little bit. What does that teach us? What does that tell us about Paul's posture? Question number 4. Do you personally find it hard to be honest with the people around you about your struggles? Why or why not? Question 5. Paul is honest about this internal battle or the conflict that he and really all believers face. And so, in what ways have you seen this battle or conflict play out in your life? Maybe take some time and just talk about that struggle a little bit, in your own life. And then finally, question 6. Your life is an environment that is perfectly designed to grow or produce whatever it's currently growing or producing. So with that in mind, what are some specific ways that we can nourish our new nature in Christ? Maybe list some out or talk about the ones that, are most helpful for you. How do you nourish your new nature in Christ so that it grows and develops as it should? All right. That's all the questions we got. Again, I hope y'all are enjoying the study, and we will see you next Sunday. Sarah Hammond is going to wrap up the series for us looking at Romans chapter 8. We'll see y'all then.